Hey, welcome back. So yeah, I do feel a little self-conscious that I'm going to be talking about improv so much because it's like lame, and I think the point is obviously that if I could do it, anybody can do it. I know I hate saying that, but it's very true that, well, if you're like me, do this because it's the thing that's helped me the most. And I've been trying a lot of stuff. The stupid board game thing. What else did I do? I've done a million things. Why can't I think of anything? I don't know. Whatever. All the stuff I've been trying. Remember when I was doing walks? I was going on walks. That didn't help. Why would that help? It was a stupid idea. I did that app. Remember that app where you could like chat with people? 7 Cups? That didn't help me. Not even therapy. I mean, therapy's helped me a lot, but I feel like this is better than therapy for me. So yeah, that's the point. Hopefully that comes across that like you should do it. Probably. I don't know. I mean, if you don't think you should do it, then maybe you shouldn't, and you can ask me about it and be like, you think I should do it? Because it's different. I know it's different for everybody. And maybe you should see a therapist first, like I did. So you're like able to handle it better? I don't know. Or like if it goes terribly the first time, you can at least have somebody to talk to about it. But yeah, I really like this teacher because the best thing he does is, I might have mentioned this, but after every game we play, he goes, and it's nice that it's a really small class, so there's only 3 of us. If it was a bigger class, I probably wouldn't say anything. I'd be like, oh, I'll let everybody else say how they felt about the game. Like if it was 10 people or something. But usually what happens is the other 2 people talk first, and then he's like, Anthony, how do you feel about the game? And if I felt uncomfortable, I feel comfortable telling him. We had one game this week that was pretty hard for me, which was it was like a normal scene, but between every line, you had to wait 10 seconds before you could talk. So I would say something, and then the other person had to wait 10 seconds, and there had to be 10 seconds of silence. And after we played that game, I was like, I felt really awkward doing that, and I felt like when we had the extra time, that meant like I was putting more pressure on myself to say something smarter because like I had more time to think about it. And that extra pressure kind of occupied my brain so much that I couldn't think of anything. And the first couple times we did it, I was just like, I don't know. Like even after the 10 seconds, I was like, I don't know what to say. And I didn't really say anything. And it's good to have somebody to just to debrief after every game and be like, how did you feel? Did you feel okay? How did you feel? And he's trying to do more like improv-y stuff too this week, especially with the status thing. Because he's like, in every scene characters have status, so just you have to be a little bit aware of what your status is and how your character would react to someone high status, low status, whatever. And that is interesting. Like instead of just if you want to make a scene more interesting, instead of just being a middle status person, maybe go low status. and be like, oh, I'm so sorry for existing. He made he he had a funny bit where he was like, a good way to be low status is to ask for permission for things that obviously don't need permission for. So he was like, oh, is it okay if I sit here, or like I'm breathing kind of heavy, is it okay if I breathe? Like, that's what a low status person would do. They would always ask for permission for things. I thought that was funny. He's right. I mean, I do that. And so the first thing we did with the low status thing was, the teacher stood up and he's like, tell me how to act to be a low status person. So we were like, oh, you're kind of slouchy, and oh, your head's down, and you kind of mumble, and like you're kind of, I don't know, like when you walk you're kind of unsure, and he started walking to the window, and I'm like, that's me, that's how I walk. Because he was kind of like, oh, I don't know, is it okay if I go over here? Ooh. And he's like, we all know people like that. And I'm like, yeah, I see him in the mirror every morning. That's me. You're doing me. And it was funny because he's like this big, kind of loud person, and for him, he did a really good job of embodying me. He acted like me somehow. Even though he is like this really big person, he was able to be like, oh, I don't know what's going on, I'm gonna walk over here, but I'm not sure about it. I'm probably just gonna go through every single game we played because I really enjoyed it. It was good. So the one game we played was the expert game. You act like an expert. So you stand up and the three other people are sitting, and you stand up and you're like, okay, I'm gonna take questions, any questions, and people ask you any question they can think of. So they're like, why is the sky blue? And you have to answer it. It doesn't have to be true, but you're right, so just say whatever you want. So somebody was like, what's the best bird? And I was like, oh, it's a peacock. How do I do this? Oh, I see. I bet you do it like this. I did it. Okay. And it's just stupid stuff like that, but I liked, because it's so different from who I am, to act like I know anything. I never, maybe that's not 100% true, but I'm doing it now. Or like I act like I don't feel like I want to be the person who knows everything about everything. And I do feel like that because the teacher was like, oh, my dad was like that. He used to talk like he knew everything. And I feel like that's kind of an older generation thing, where they kind of act like they know. Because there are some people in my family that kind of did that, I remember. The older people. Where they're like, you're not a scientist, what do you act like you know this thing? His example was like, he was at this this meeting with like astrophysicists, and he was talking to the astrophysicists like he knew, like, oh, do you, like, I know about this particle, and like, what are you talking about? And I never do that. Like, I never act like I know. Definitely, even if someone challenged me on something, I think I'm always like, oh, yeah, you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about. And I don't, so. How do we feel about this this new mechanic where the pegs are kind of locked? Some of them are locked, we have to hit them twice. I think it's okay. What do you think? It's interesting, it's interesting. This is Peggle 2 after all. Okay, I had the best game, my favorite game that we played, I haven't even talked about it yet, was called Status Switch. Or no. It was a competition, it's just called the Status game, I think. Where you start the scene off at like a 5, and then you have to compete with the other person to be the lowest status. And whoever's the lowest by the end, like the audience judges who wins. And I had a lot of ideas of how to do that for some reason, because I guess it's me, right? So I did really well at that game, and I actually won. I beat the other guy. But he was good too. He had a couple good lines that I liked. So the scene was, we're at an airport. We're at the airport gate and we're waiting for somebody to come. And he started, and he was like, at a 5. You've been waiting here long? And I was like, oh yeah, a couple hours. You've been waiting here long? And then the first line that really made me feel good, like, about myself. Maybe this is the first thing I've ever said that ever made me feel good about myself. Because it was very me, and it made me feel good. So he goes, oh, no, I haven't been waiting here that long. I'm just waiting for my wife. She's coming. And then, like, immediately I was like, a wife? Oh. And the teacher laughed, and that made me feel good, because when I was doing it, it came across, I felt like, I was trying to get it to come across like, oh wow, you have a wife, that must be nice, like, I don't have a wife. It felt very cathartic too, because that's how I feel in real life, like, oh wow. It was really interesting. I guess I want to talk about that more, because that's why it made me feel so good, because it was like, I've been feeling so bad about this stupid dating thing, and so to have the opportunity in a scene to kind of let out that frustration and also be kind of funny about it, because that helped me win the game, because I was like, oh wow, you have a wife, and that made me lower status. And then he was like, oh yeah, but like, I'm worried. He did good. He was like, I'm worried you might be cheating on me or something. And then I was like, oh yeah, I know what that's like. People cheat on me all the time. And the line that made them laugh, I thought of, like, it was kind of silent for a second, and I was like, I have to be honest with you, I'm actually not waiting for anybody. Like, nobody's coming for me. And then I think we ended there, and that's when I won the game, I guess. I don't know. It was fun. He said you could play the game where you're both high status, but I think he's right. Like, lower status is more fun. To just try to be like, oh, poor me, because that's me. I mean, that's what I do. So it's fun to make fun of that person. And it's also cathartic to say kind of what I want to say about my situation. It's like, oh wow, you got a wife. That must be nice. I remember, this is so embarrassing that I'm talking about the stupid improv for so long. I wanted it to come across like, oh wow, you have a wife? You're so cool. I shouldn't even be talking to you. Like, I can't imagine. That's how I wanted it, and I feel like it did a little bit. That made me happy. Yeah, I felt like it came across like he was like my older brother, and I was like the younger brother, and I was like, whoa, you're so cool, like you kissed a girl, I can't believe how cool that is, like I would never be able to do that. I don't know, sorry. um but I don't know, I'm sorry. Tomorrow more improv talk. Maybe one more day. Maybe not. No, whatever. So thanks for indulging me. It's making me happy. And it's my new thing that I have to do. I have to do this. It's the only thing I've ever found yet. I mean, I just said it was fun. And I've never had fun. Like, I've always thought it's like kind of crazy that I've never had fun around other people. I mean, whenever I had to talk, it's never been fun. If I go to a baseball game, that's fun, but I don't have to talk. If I go to dinner, it's not fun, because I have to talk. Sometimes dinner's kind of fun, because I'm like, oh, at least I get to eat, like, good food. But whatever. See you tomorrow.